Now here at GPFans, we were talking about trackside marshals after the Austrian Grand Prix more than we probably ever had done before. But there are a few questions that many of us would like clearing up in terms of who these marshals are, what their duties are on a racing weekend, and how can somebody become a Formula One marshal? Well, we will answer all of those in this GPFans Special about the men and women that volunteer to sit trackside on a racing weekend. I'm Ollie Wilson, and here's everything you need to know about F1 marshals. Several times in a season, we get to see how safe Formula One is in the modern era. Think back just a few weeks to the British Grand Prix, where we saw Zhou Guanyu sliding across the tarmac of Silverstone through the gravel trap and then flipping and landing incredibly hard up against the fence right in front of startled supporters in the grandstand. Now, the race TV director wasn't able to show the images until the Chinese Formula One driver had been removed from the car, and to get him out of the vehicle, he has the marshals trackside to thank. His Alfa Romeo was in a very difficult position, but eventually with the help of the marshals, we got the message that Zhou was okay. In addition to the technical safety measures on these cars, the same marshals that sit trackside are basically a common thread that Formula One drivers use to get a safe path through a Formula One weekend. We often see images of the heroic men and women darting out, racing onto the track to clear rubbish and debris away during perhaps safety cars and virtual safety cars, ensuring that the circuit remains clear and racing can resume. It should be clear, Formula One and other racing events stand and fall by the voluntary work that the heroic marshals provide on and around the circuit. Without the help of these volunteers, an event simply can't take place, because with the different roles these people have, it is impossible to run a race safely without their help. So let's take a look at some of the roles that the marshals have. There is, of course, not just one kind of marshal in Formula One, so let's run down a list of the most common roles. Track marshals. One of the most eye-catching roles for a marshal is that of the track marshal. As the name suggests, these men and women are posted alongside the circuit, and they are most often seen on our TV screens. The role of this marshal is to make the circuit safe again for racing as quickly as possible. This can be, for example, removing rubbish or debris from the circuit, or to perhaps remove a stopped or crashed car from trackside, allowing for safe racing once again. Flag marshals. Then we have the other most notable category of marshal, the flag marshal. The job of these marshals, as the name suggests, is to use the flags to signal to ensure that drivers know where there are potentially dangerous parts of the circuit or where a situation has been resolved on track. Think, for example, of waving the yellow flag when there is danger on track, and then the green flag to let drivers know that it's safe to go racing again. Pit marshals. Then there are the pit marshals, who are located, well, in the pit lane to provide assistance when an incident occurs in that area. For example, when two cars have a coming together in the pit lane, like, I don't know, when Lewis Hamilton crashed into the back of Kimi Raikkonen in the pit lane at the Canadian Grand Prix in 2008. Some of the marshals in this area are also given a speed gun to make sure the drivers aren't speeding as they come down to their garages. Start line marshals. The role of the start line marshal is one that's quickly played out during a Grand Prix weekend. Now, these marshals ensure that all the cars are lined up properly on the grid before lights go out and we go racing. If this is not the case, it's their job to wave a yellow flag, or if one of the drivers is unable to get out of his starting blocks at the start of the race. Paddock marshals. Marshals aren't only present on track or beside it, as you would expect. The security heroes are also deployed off the track to ensure that things run smoothly. Think, for example, of the paddock that is being built next to the circuit. Paddock marshals have several duties, including making sure all cars are lined up properly before they head towards the grid. Administrative marshals. And if we're talking about marshals that are away from the track a little more, we can immediately talk about the administrative marshal. They're rarely seen on a Grand Prix weekend, but nevertheless have an important role in the smooth running of the event. They form the link between the chief marshal on and around the circuit and the race director, and thus have a crucial role in communication regarding safety on track. Now, you may be wondering, is it possible to become a marshal in Formula One? And perhaps thinking that it seems impossible, but nothing could be further from the truth. In principle, anyone can qualify to play the role of a marshal during a Grand Prix weekend. Formula One is of course extremely grateful for the many volunteers who take time out and again show their dedication to the sport by ensuring that a race is as safe as possible. Without marshals, there simply, as we've said earlier, would be no motorsport. Now, a marshal's role is a volunteer position. There is no financial reward for it. And you probably shouldn't get involved if you don't have a real passion for motorsport. But the chance to experience the spectacle up close and personal and have the opportunity to admire your racing heroes from right in front of you is, of course, reason enough for the fanatics to take on the role, at least according to the FIA. So what does it take to become a marshal? Obviously, it's not possible just to stand next to a Formula One circuit without any sort of experience or training. In principle, anybody can apply for the role of marshal if you're in pretty good health. Now, Formula One does expect a healthy portion of passion and maximum effort from the marshals as well. Rain or shine, the event will of course continue, and Formula One has no use for people that they can't rely on. Anyone from 11 years old can find their way to a Formula One circuit, and children from 11 to 17 must be accompanied by an adult.